The year is 1980, and we're in London.
Hello, chap. 6 armed terrorists
Stormed the Iranian embassy and taken all occupants hostage. And not long after, for the British SAS, Operation Nimrod kicked off. But what was really kicking about it were those massive flashlights on top of those MP5s. And thus the massive flashlight on tiny gun era was born. And while it didn't last long, it has a special place in our hearts. The Streamlight SL20, like what was used on Operation Nimrod. Or big and heavy mag lights, ultimately coming down to the size of small laser products or Surefire flashlights on the ends of weapons. And it's still crazy that Surefire is around this many years later and still kicking and innovating. Good on them. There's one brand that I didn't mention and I love it for what it is. And I've got some really cool stuff that we're gonna take a look at that I don't think has ever been shared on the internet about underwater kinetics. Oh, and I've got the lights too. Bam, bam. And before we get too deep into the weeds, huge shout out to my Patreon guys and all of you guys watching this video. Your likes, comments, even the mean ones, and shares and all really help support the channel. If you wanted more exclusive content, as well as some special access on the Discord to hidden channels and live streams that we do, go check out the Patreon. I'll link it below. But back to the video. That's right, Underwater Kinetics is a brand that was used by, as you guys very well know on this channel, Delta Force. It is most famously seen in Operation Acid Gambit and Just Cause in 1989 to 1990. Or if you're a man or woman of good taste, you'll see it in some of those Scud Hunter pictures. But some sources say that they may have shown up even earlier, because the QXL lights and really underwater kinetics as a whole has been around for quite a while, and they're still going today. You see, in 1971 in California, Alan Uke began the brand Underwater Kinetics for dive lights. And these were pretty darn revolutionary, in that they boasted 4 features that made these really attractive to Delta Force operators. Number 1, they were waterproof. They're dive lights, so they're meant to function underwater, in which they did. Number 2, they were rugged and durable. These are plastic frames, and the internals are extremely simple, which of course lent itself to being modified easily, but there's not much that you can mess up on something like this. They're small and use common batteries like the C-types in here, but most importantly, they were light. Compared to the heavy streamlights or mag lights of the time, these things weigh next to nothing, even with batteries in them. And that's what made them so popular to put on the end of the rifle, specifically the Colt 653s or 723s that you see Delta Force using in the latter half of the 1980s into the 1990s. And while I did a whole video talking about how these are modified, I didn't really get to show you guys what they look like originally, and these ones are kind of beat up. In fact, only one of these works, and I'm working on fixing up this other one. But they are a very slim and low profile design. Again, fitting perfectly on the end of a handguard. They came in bright colors like this yellow or blue, and there's another I'll mention in a bit. But of course, these are to be seen clearly underwater and show up too bright above water as well. So they painted these black and modified them. And you can see these on a few different weapon platforms. The 2 most notable ones, again, I mentioned the Colt 723, but you can also see these on the sides of 1911s. There's not many photos of it. There's a special bracket that can be mounted right by the grip that allows a QXL dive light to be put on the side. But when I purchased these ones, I got them in a huge bulk lot actually, of a bunch of different dive lights at the time period, but this was the gold I was looking for. The seller sent some really cool pieces that we're gonna take a look at right here. It may give us some insight into what the armorers saw when they were picking out and purchasing these lights. So let's turn this camera down on the table. Let's take a look at some cool 1980s stuff. The first that we're going to take a look at is this Underwater Kinetics brochure from 1988-1989, sort of a catalog. And I'll flip through the stuff that is kind of generic, but they have some cool selection with, you can see those Q lights down there, and then some of their other models. But this is really the page that we're kind of interested in. You see all the reasons that you should choose a Super Q light, which involves the QXL family. From a dimpled reflector, to an ABS and Lexan construction, to that thing I said I'll mention later, but the glow-in-the-dark phosphorescent case. That's pretty darn cool. I also like all the different holders. Obviously, Delta didn't really use those, they just mounted them straight to their weapons, but it's a cool piece nonetheless. And you can see the different models and all that they had available during this time period. Some of the common ones that you will see with Delta are the QXL3s, again, obviously modified. The original one that I modified was a rechargeable QXL light. And as you can see, the QXL3 is about exactly the same. And here you have a picture of all the other beautiful models in the same kind of lineup. Continuing on, you have some care instructions, and then of course more models from them. Whenever I look up Underwater Kinetics on eBay, I tend to see a ton of these pop up, the dry boxes. If anyone owns one and thinks they're worth picking up, let me know. and some accessories. Now, that's really it for this catalog. There's not too much in here, but the next thing I'm going to show you guys, I don't think has ever been seen or posted on the internet before. And I pray to the Lord that this doesn't get me taken down, but this is a confidential dealer price list. I don't think this is in date enough for them to care, but this is just a really cool piece of history. I'm not trying to call out Underwater Kinetics here, but again, this is from May 1987 to January of 1988. So just about the time that we know that these were seen with Delta Force. As you open them up, you see a ton of dealer prices. This right here is my favorite part though. Like if I wanted to purchase brand new, one of the QXL lights, let's say I wanted to go for the QXL 3 in blue, that would be $14 back then in that 1988 time frame. Whereas now, adjusting for inflation, that would be just under $40. And again, there's that phosphorescent. You're paying just a tad more for it. But geez, these things are really cool. You have more Underwater Kinetics parts, and then we start getting to the dive light replacement parts. Right here in the middle are the Q light replacement parts, which is kind of what we're looking at here. I know for sure that I could use a few of the fixed focus lamp reflectors. Really, the focusing reflector assembly. And my God, that is so cheap. This $6 price is $17 adjusted for today. And even if I wanted to buy a new housing, which I definitely wish I could for some of those old ones, $9. That's taken us to what? $26 nowadays? These things were so ridiculously inexpensive. Again, these are dealer prices, so I don't know if Delta actually got these prices. I would doubt it. Even though the QXL lights weren't contracts, government pricing still was probably quite a bit up there. Glad we could shed some light on the dealer prices and some cool historical pieces with the QXL lights. Oh, if Underwater Kinetics could see it now. How much money they could make by releasing a retro line. Wouldn't bother me in the slightest, but I know that these things are getting harder and harder to find, so hopefully you can too. Just be really diligent on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, anywhere that you know someone will sell an old beat up dive light and might not know what they have. And make sure if you do get one, wash it. They're kind of stinky. Thanks guys for checking out the video. If you get a dive light, build it out, send some pictures. I'd love to see it. It's the Gear.Locker. We'll see you in the next one. It's kind of rude of me. I'm sorry.